Another week of books and another driving vlog. Jump in the car with me and let's go. I just started The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it is my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book. You may or may not know about me. I gave up social media, like personal social media, more than 10 years ago now. While I've created an account for this channel, if you ever respond to any of the comments on Instagram or Facebook, I may not respond back right away. The only one I actually monitor really is for this channel, so on YouTube. So if you make a comment here in the comment section, I'll get that notification and I will absolutely respond back. Point being that I don't see a lot of the BookTok, Bookstagram kind of what's trending, what's hot, and it just somehow never made it onto my TBR. So far, the book's just started. We've met Monique, who is writing the story, and Evelyn has picked her to write this memoir, and nobody knows why she picked her, out of randomness. She's not particularly a big or famous reporter. I have to say it is intriguing. Obviously she's like this combination of all these old famous movie stars. Kind of get a feel for that kind of a person, like if Marilyn Monroe had aged to 79, something like that, or maybe like a Rita Hayworth. I don't know if there's been comparisons, but that's kind of who I'm visualizing right now. Yeah, it seems really interesting, so I'm excited to see which direction this goes. I would say 3 or 4 chapters, maybe 5 chapters into The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I can see why people love it so much. It's just, for me right now, it's just a very solid, enjoyable read. I'm not blown away, but I'm enjoying the story. It's really hard when everybody raves about a book to go in with an open mind, and so I'm trying to do so. I want to be mindful to be respectful about what I think about it. In no way is there anything negative to say. I guess I'm just not blown away by the positive, and so it's a nice story. I'm about 50% of the way through Evelyn Hugo, and it's picking up a little bit. I'm not going to say like I'm wowed and blown away or anything, but I'm on her 4th husband at this point. Mutually beneficial arrangement between the two. They've just finished filming Anna Karenina. It's getting a little bit more interesting. Her just working out, trying to get hers. She's already gone through this devastating loss of her actual great love, and she's doing everything she can to get that back. And you feel bad for Evelyn for what the times forced her into, what the times back then allowed in society, and what they allowed on the ugly side of condemning people and what they allowed as far as just letting people live their lives, so yeah, really unfortunate for sure. But just the story is what I'm talking about, and it's really enjoyable. Just not knocking my socks off, but I'm certainly having a good time. So I finished Evelyn Hugo, and yeah, that was a really good story. Was I blown away? No. It reminded me a lot of historical fiction, kind of lit ficky, just historical romance type or historical fiction style books that I had read around that same time. It was reminiscent of those for me. Plight of Evelyn and what she went through as far as, she reaped the benefits and also had to suffer the horrible things that went along with that day and time. And sure, and of course, there's still horrible things that happen, to that community to this day. While things have advanced, it's not to say that it's perfect by any means, right? But in this historical context, the extreme nature of what people went through during that time. And then the flip side of that, you have her amazing Hollywood career and each husband along the way, what she gained or didn't, and just different things. She was a harsh character. I don't know if I ever really felt any actual warmth, but I would say character-wise, I really felt for Harry. I really liked Harry a lot, and her daughter, but Harry mostly. I think he was my favorite character that I felt most connected to. Yeah, I think I really liked Harry a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, I liked Evelyn. She's a tough cookie, and really she played the hand she was dealt, and more power to her. Bravo to her. As a character, I really admire that. But did I love her in that way? And I don't know that you're meant to. Whereas, like a Harry character where you really just have that warm fuzzy for him. Overall, it was really good. It didn't blow me away. Now, I will say, and I'm trying not to get too specific for a reason. Back a few months ago, I was watching Running Point on Netflix. Thanks a lot, Running Point, for ruining the ending for me. I knew what was coming because that show ruined it for me. So, not that I think, now that I've read it and see how the big twist, I don't think it's a twist, maybe, was, now seeing how she wrote it and how it was revealed, it wasn't even a real shock as the story unfolded. So maybe it was, I guess, I'll never know. I knew it was coming, so that aspect of the story never really factored into my enjoyment to the rest of it. Yeah, I don't think it would have changed anything for me, other than I was just really mad that a TV show, the book is 7 years old, I think, 7 or 8 years old. I don't think that's long enough to where they're giving out plot twists in TV. So I think that was kind of a really bad, crummy deal that TV show, had that spoiler in it. I don't think it affected my rating. I'm going to go with a 4. It was a good, solid 4 stars for me. Not a 5-star. I fully respect and understand why it's 5-star for a lot of people. But for me, it was just a really pleasant read that was interesting, intriguing, fun, sad, all those things. Just a solid 4 for me. I'm glad I read it. I would absolutely recommend it to anybody looking for a good read. So last night I started Crown Me Dead. I have been hearing a lot about Crown Me Dead lately. It's making the rounds again about, it being a tearjerker. And, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm willing to find out. As always, I did not read the blurb. I don't want to know what's coming. Other than that, I've seen people talking about it again lately. Is it romantasy? Is it not romantasy? I don't know. It definitely leans towards it based on what I'm reading so far. But anyway, so I start, and right away, obviously, it is dark. There are some dark elements, some really tragic, gory elements, but at the same time, just really tragic and sad and grotesque even. Some of the things that are being described, but with an element of not being for the sake of sensationalism, grotesque in that it's describing in truth of what these people are going through and what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis with the rot, and how this one family is going through it, how they're coping, how they're getting through or not so much getting through based on what's happening with the dad and the brother. And so it is grotesque, but I don't feel like it's grotesque just to be sensational and just to be, over the top. I feel like it's to make a point, heartfelt even. And yeah, it's really interesting so far. Again, I don't read blurbs. I didn't grasp much based on what people are saying other than, oh, this is a tearjerker like a real one. And no books made me cry since The Ravenhood, I don't think, at least not sobbing. So we'll see how that goes. What spurred me to pick that book? I don't know. I was starting another small town romance and mood reading kicked in. I was just like, nope, I suddenly don't feel like reading. That's just how being a mood reader goes, I guess. Good morning. Apologize for the sweating. It is so hot out, and I haven't been able to vlog the last couple of days because there is, on both sides of my driveway, the electric company has been putting in new transformers, and it's just been incredibly loud and banging noises and this and that. But I was reading Crown Me Dead the last we spoke, and I just finished it last night. When I left off, I was saying that, the gory nature of describing the rot was prevalent. And it stays prevalent, but not as much. Once you understand that is the nature of the world we're in this book, that eases up a little bit the grotesqueness, but he does get the point across. Then the, love story, the romance, the pseudo-romance kicks in. It reminded me, not in any way the story or anything like that, but in the sense of where Farah and Tamlin, in ACOTAR, where, you think you're going one direction and then Rhysand drops in, and so that way you have Vale, dropping in. Well, he starts the story with her, and you don't know how to feel about who. That feeling maintains itself throughout. I'm trying to do this without spoiling anything. If I talk too much about either one of the male main characters, that kind of lends to how this story wraps up. I've now rolled right into Crown Me Yours, and so I'm trying to make sure I don't say too many names, because while it is 2 books, it very much feels like it is just flipping to a new chapter, as if this was one large book. Without giving away how this book, Crown Me Dead, ends, I am pleased with how it ended. This is the chemistry, the connection I felt. For me, this is the way it should have gone. So I would say overall, this is my first Liv Zander. Overall, I'm going to go with like a 3.75. It didn't blow me away, but I very much enjoyed the progression of the story. I loved that it was quick. I'm not a super romantic-y person, but I would call this more like the book says, a dark fantasy, and I enjoyed it. It didn't get too deep into the world building. It just presented itself as a fantasy environment, and I appreciated that it was more of an easy read in that sense. It didn't spend so much time digging into all the little bits, and it actually kind of made me want to go back and finally get to book 2 of I Did Lies of Lena, and this almost makes me want to go back and finish and read The Sins of Silas and finish that series out. It kind of has me in that mind frame, or maybe the second book in the Reign of Shadows and Endings storyline. We'll see. 3.75. I really enjoyed it and immediately went into Crown Me Yours. So Crown Me Yours, I started right away. And again, I would say that more so than feeling like this is another book, it feels more like I just turned the page in Crown Me Dead to the next chapter. It feels very much like one book. Kind of like the Mind F series, it's 5 separate books. But if you buy the big book, it's one story. But technically, it's 5 books. So this felt very much like I was literally just turning the page and another chapter was starting. Because you have the background of everybody and everything that's going on, it certainly helps that I literally closed book 1 and went into book 2. So I'm right in the story, and it picks up like that very next day. And so do I talk about the who? I guess it doesn't hurt because you don't know what happened at the end of book 1. So we pick up, and right away, without giving too many details, Elara and Vale are now kind of in this, we're mad at each other. So it's like, although we know each other, we've gone into like an enemies situation. Yet there's such a pull. There are feelings, still towards the king. We're getting more involved with her mother and her brother. They've been moved to the palace. And so this book has the potential, I would say, to probably get a higher rating from me already. And I'm only at 2 or 3 chapters in, because I feel like this is going to give me more of kind of like what's my favorite thing about reading is when you have more character development from other people and the group and the family. And it establishes, by having these other people brought in, you're establishing more feeling from like Elara and Vale. I just feel like this one has more potential for me, even though I really enjoyed book 1. I think this is going to be even more enjoyable. So we'll see how it goes. I'm only a few chapters in, but I'm liking it so far. I'm on the fence. Do I want to vlog this morning? So the electric company decided the yard on either side of me needed new transformers. And yesterday, when they went to power down so they could actually make the new connections after they got done digging through the yard, which, great, fine, got to do what you got to do. They plug everything back in and zap or power surge our house. Now, do they stick around to check all the houses that are affected after they do this? No. So our air conditioning is zapped. It's a year old. Microwave oven unit in the kitchen, zap. And the Tattletale unit has this error code. And once I looked it up thinking, maybe hopefully, please, let me at least be able to just kind of like reset the code. No, it specifically is a code that pops up when a surge or a major power event happens and it zaps the board. And that. So long story short, it was the most miserable night because nobody can come out. I don't even know where we are at this morning. I have to go to work. Oh my gosh. Even with fans, like I said, it got up to 90. It was cooler outside at 75 degrees to where we opened the windows just to, survive. It's been many, I grew up without air conditioning. So I don't remember what that was like. And for those of you who don't have it, I feel for you because wow, it's been a long time. We don't have a window unit laying around that we could use just to get, to tide us over, because we do have power, but just it's completely zapped. So my point being that I'm so miserable and hot and like I look like I just walked through the desert. But I did read because, all night long I was so miserable, I had nothing else. I couldn't fall asleep. So I was just reading and I was reading Crown Me Yours. And as I thought would happen, because there's all that groundwork laid out in the first book, you've gotten to know everybody. The emotional connections are really forming. You definitely feel for these characters more. The tension and the yearn is absolutely on fire. It's really good and really well written. I think I'm about 65 to 70% of the way through, and so I anticipate finishing today. They're coming around the bend to where they're admitting that they are not going to be able to avoid each other. There's just no way around it. So yeah, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully by the time I get home we have air conditioning because I don't want to go through another night like that. But we will see. At the very least I get to go to work and be in the AC all day. So I'm really not a big whiner. It's just I live in a very southern state and it gets really hot here. And yeah, it's no joke. Good morning. Super quick update. We have power restored. We have AC restored. We had to, I won't even get into the nasty details of it, but essentially we had to have an entirely new electrical panel put in our house. What is that? Like something we weren't even doing. It's the electric company putting in new transformers. The second they turn them on, the house blows. Long story short, they come out, they realize that they didn't connect something correctly or too much power, or I don't know, something, and created the surge. We had to put an entirely new electrical panel in the entire house. So that took X amount of hours. Technically the house is turned on, AC came back on, microwave oven came back on. The reason they weren't turning on is partly because there wasn't enough juice coming in the house, partly because of the surge. Like, I don't even know. I'm not an electrician. I don't know the first thing about it. Anyway, I did get more Crown Me Yours read, and our two characters, at this point, I don't want to say who, because then it gives away things from book one. So I'm trying to be very careful about just saying at this point, which is almost 70% of this book, our two main characters who the story is centered around at this point are finally giving in to, what their hearts want. They're starting to just go with it instead of just fighting their hearts. As far as the curse itself, where does that go? How do they beat this curse? She's having one of the scribes in the library or in the chapel kind of really go through the original text and translate it and help her figure out how to do this to break the curse, because at the end of the day we've got to make the rot stop in this kingdom. And how do they do that? What they want can't matter more than what the people need. So we'll see. Good morning. So I finished Crown Me Yours. Oh, okay. I see what everybody's talking about. First of all, I thought Crown Me Dead was the one that everybody's like, oh, it's such a tearjerker. And I mean, maybe it is, but I have a feeling they mean Crown Me Yours. You really have to take the two-book journey. You can't appreciate Crown Me Yours unless you've read Crown Me Dead. While that was good, the totality of both makes you appreciate book one more, but book two, I don't know. Right now for me, this is a 4.5. 4.5. I don't know if I'm willing to go a full 5 stars. By next week, by the time I do my monthly wrap up, I may change my mind because of the fact that is it a 5-star read? I'm torn because, and I don't know if I have a reason. It's a 4.5 for sure. I have to think about this. I don't know. It's gonna sit with me. I know that. I really love the ending chapters, but I really liked everything about it start to finish. So I don't know, is this a 5-star? I would say the only reason I want to say 4.5 is because my brain isn't automatically like, oh my gosh, 5 stars, that was so great. So if that's not the case, by tomorrow or something, then I'll leave it at 4.5. But I am saying that by my August wrap up, if this thing keeps sitting with me and I keep thinking about the characters and the gorgeous way she wraps everything up, and I've never read Liv Zander before. I'm absolutely going to be reading Feathers So Vicious now. Now that I've got the feel of her writing style, I'm definitely going to be jumping into that. I don't know if it's like tomorrow, but soon. I'm so happy that I stumbled upon hearing people talk about this series, this duology. And again, because you have to read Crown Me Dead before you get to Crown Me Yours, I don't want to say the who's, other than Alara, I don't want to say the who is the main characters with her in this, just in case it gives away anything for Crown Me Dead. But I didn't see the direction it was going. Based on Crown Me Dead, you feel, I don't know, I was thinking the opposite of how this was going to go, more of a kind of a mean-spirited ending. And then, the way it ended up, the way she turned the story and really made it like a true love story. Oh, it was really, really good. And in a dark fantasy way, it's like a Notebook. In some weird way, that's what it made me think of. Not at all, but at the same time, kind of it just made me think of that in the way how it tells a complete story. And I didn't see that coming. So I really enjoyed that a lot. For the moment, I'm going to go with a 4.5. I'll probably sit on this a little bit. And if it just, for me, 5-star books are the ones that you can't get out of your head. They don't necessarily have to be the best written books. They don't have to be the longest books. If it stays with me and makes me think about it, then that's when I'll put it there. If it doesn't immediately just knock my socks off. And this did. I cried like a baby. Don't get me wrong. I did. I just don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go there. For now, 4.5, really good. If you haven't read the duology, Crown Me Dead, Crown Me Yours, I highly recommend it. I don't even really care for fantasy all that much and romantasy. We know this. It didn't matter. It was just such a good story. It is very graphic in some of the gore and some of the things that are happening. It's dark fantasy because there's this kingdom-wide rot that has to be this. It's a curse that's causing rot over everyone in the kingdom, and they have to find a way to end this curse. It's really, really interesting, and I highly recommend it. Book 3 in the King series by Lena Hendrix, and this one is called Just Between Us, which is Royal and Vita's book. Royal, he's, kind of the edgier brother. Then Vita comes to town. Vita is a very, not prim and proper, but very by the book, Royal's younger brother, who is the baby boy of the family and the most like their dad, Russell, who clearly is not a good guy. We've learned in the first 2 books that their dad is up to something. He told all the kids that their mom up and left them when the oldest of all the kids was 11 and the youngest was just a baby. From what we know as readers, she just up and left these kids, and we're meant in the very first book to think, how horrible these poor kids, and their dad, while he's not super affectionate, his sister Bug, she kind of raised the kids in their mom's place. We've slowly been unfolding that maybe things aren't the way they seem. Did the mom really leave, or is their dad really the evil everybody thinks is lurking under the surface? Each book so far has pulled back more layers of this onion. So now we're in book 3. Royal's younger brother has brought Vida in to really take a look at the books. One of the other brothers has hired a private investigator to look. Well, now he wants to look at the money side, follow the money, right? So she is digging deep. There is definitely something going on. So far, I would say if I had to nitpick, the romance is probably the least, I don't know, warm fuzzy of the bunch, but I do really like Royal and I really like Vida. What I'm giving up with a little bit of the romance is they're really digging deep into the mystery. I really want to know what happened, and I'm really enjoying how they're peeling the layers of this onion back as these stories go. I finished Just Between Us, and overall it was good. I would say of the 3 that I've read so far in the 5-book series, it was my least favorite, but I enjoyed it, if that makes sense. What I want to do when I read a series, I think naturally my brain just ranks the books and how I feel about them. And I would say that, yeah, it's my least favorite in the sense that the romantic entanglement was, well, it was sweet, it was there, it was nice. I liked their dynamic. It just took a back seat to the mystery. And again, I really did enjoy the mystery, and we definitely get a culmination of what's going on. We get answers. Again, there's 5 books in the series, but we've already achieved the answer to kind of the what happened aspect of the mom of all 6 kids. You can tell that that's just the beginning of more. That, yes, while that is an answer that they've gotten, there's definitely more to the story, or more to how they're going to take this guy down as a family, as a group. There's definitely a lot more interaction between the Kings and the Sullivans, and that's really fun to see how they're going around the bend as far as the development of squashing this decades and decades old rivalry. It was just really fulfilling. It was really enjoyable. It does still make me want to go back and read the Sullivan series. It is definitely encouraging me to go to book 4, which is JP's book. A tractor just went by when I was finishing my review, and so it's now after I've driven home. I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to go with a 3.75. I just didn't enjoy it as much as Just This Once and Just My Luck, but I really liked it. Overall, it comes down to, in this series, the small town romance, but also your romance with the town itself. The found family and the friend group. Frenemies, you've got the rival families of the Kings and the Sullivans, who are now not really rivals, and they're really starting to work it out. The step 1 of the mystery has been solved, so that's been gratifying, while you still know there's more coming, and so that makes you eager for the next 2 books. That's the appeal of the series, is the series as a whole, the group as a whole, the families as a whole. While I do really enjoy each of the characters so far, there's certainly not a character that I haven't liked. So 3.75. I highly recommend the King series by Lena Hendrix. It's been really enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I mentioned in the last few videos that my work, we're having a massive project that's getting ready to finish in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and we're finally at the beginning of the end. And so this is where I have almost no free time whatsoever. So I'm probably going to do a few driving vlogs because it's just easier for me editing wise and filming. The stress is off the charts right now work wise. And so I'm just trying to alleviate that. I'm also probably not going to do as many shorts. I like to put a lot of shorts out there. They're fun. But again, editing time wise, videos are fun, but I don't think many people realize how long editing takes. And so I just won't have as much between now and I would say mid-September. So please bear with me. I'll probably do quite a few driving vlogs. Either way, we're going to have a great time. So I hope to see you next week.